everybody. Welcome to our webinar. Thank you so much for giving up your precious and valuable time to spend 45 minutes, maybe a bit more, with myself and Gemma Zeeman, who's going to be joining us. So a big welcome to wherever you are in the world. Please do say hello in the chat so that we can give you a shout out as well. We love seeing where you are. And as always, this webinar is completely interactive and meant to be a discussion. It's not show and tell. It's more a case of let's have a lovely big fireside discussion about immersive learning. And we are delighted that Gemma's going to be here with us today. And Gemma has so much experience, so much to offer. And I know that you're going to be hugely impressed with the resources that Gemma's been creating and what we can learn from her as well. As usual, you'll get an email after the webinar, and this will contain a link to the slides and Gemma's resources and ways to get in touch. And if we can help in any way at all, then please do get in touch with us. So you've heard me mention Gemma. So Gemma is one of our ThingLink Certified Trainers. We're delighted that Gemma's been part of our community for quite a few months now. And over the last few months, we've come to know and love all of the work that Gemma's doing and just sharing some of the philosophy behind it as well. So we feel really, really honoured. So without further ado, please give me a big hand. Please join me in giving Gemma a big hand and a lovely warm welcome to our webinar. Hello, Gemma. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. You really have, created something. We've turned it into a case study, and it is hugely impressive. And the fact that you've created an example that's got real impact evidence behind it as well is just phenomenal. So thank you for that, Gemma. And you're going to take us through a lovely journey throughout this webinar and on how it was developed. I can see we've got a few people joining us already. We've got Simon joining us from Derbyshire. We've got Jed joining us from Southampton. We've got, that's Marit that's joining us from Finland as well. So the community is really rallying around. And if you're watching this on catch up, don't worry, we will make sure that you can access the resources, because there's a QR code at the end of this slide and it takes you back to a link to this. So if you're watching it on YouTube and you haven't got any emails or anything like that, you're not going to miss out. But Gemma, do tell us a bit more about yourself.
So my background was previously I worked for the price comparison website confused.com for 15 years. So I was a product manager and then project manager for a long time with them. And then I decided to retrain as a primary school teacher in 2022. Graduated 2 years ago, and when I was doing that, because I was rather keen on all things digital, I was asked by the Open University, who I trained with, if I would work with them as a research assistant on a government project in Wales, trying to bring more tech into classrooms, which I thought was just such an exciting opportunity. So for the last 2 years, I've worked 1 day a week with them as a research assistant, which is how I came across ThingLink.
Wow.
So we were looking to do something in immersive technologies and immersive spaces. We've got these wonderful Insta360 X3 cameras, and we could take lovely pictures, but we were like, what next? What next? What are we going to do with these amazing pictures? So after a bit of research, came across ThingLink, and I've been rather keen ever since. And I've then gone on to set up my own business, Immersive Discoveries, which is some of what I'll talk about today. A resource I built for the Welsh Government, and going forward doing more immersive spaces for education and heritage and culture.
It's always a pleasure to have female founders on here as well and celebrate what women are doing in tech. But I do have a question, Gemma, if I may.
Go on.
So what is scarier? Is it singing a song to thousands of people in St David's Hall in Cardiff, or teaching your first lesson ever in front of your fifth graders?
The first lesson ever was terrifying. Don't get me wrong, singing's nerve-wracking. Oh, that first lesson was so scary. I'm fine now. I'm a supply teacher. I'm pretty good at walking into any classroom. and not feeling daunted. But that first lesson was terrifying.
And what do you sing? What was your genre?
Oh, I sing in a choir that's mostly musicals, but kind of all sorts, to be honest. And I've been lucky enough to do some solos over the years. St David's Hall's currently sadly closed, but hopefully reopening soon. So we'll be back there next year, fingers crossed.
Amazing. So you have many, many talents. So if you are looking at the slides or you want to just Google Gemma Zeeman and ThingLink, it will take you to Gemma's wonderful luminaries post, and we do these for each of the ThingLink Certified Trainers so that people can learn more about them and connect with them as well. And you are welcome to connect with Gemma anytime as well, and all the details will be in the email. So Gemma's resource that we're going to talk you through is also a case study which we released yesterday, and if you click on this slide, it will take you to the case study. I can post it in the chat. And just to set the scene, so Wales, those of you who maybe are not from the UK, Wales is a small country, part of the United Kingdom, a bit like Scotland, where I'm from. And I think being part of a small country gives the kind of education, the government side of things, a bit more agency to create national resources. So what you have created is something that was commissioned by Adnodd, to create a resource which is about religious values, ethics education, RVE. We call that RME in Scotland, which is religious and moral education, but this is RVE, religious values and ethics education. So you were commissioned by the Welsh Government to create a resource to educate all the children and all the learners across all the schools in Wales. So this is thousands and thousands and thousands of learners. You don't know where those learners are. You don't know what they're using to view this resource. You don't know the accessibility requirements of all of those learners either. So can you imagine what a task that must have been? Gemma, just give us a little insight into that.
Yes, so Wales have a centralised platform called Hub, and every pupil in Wales has access to that platform, and they're often accessing it from very, very young, from sort of year one to 5, 6 years old, and it all the way up through and across every education setting that you can have. This was originally set out to be for pupils aged around 8 to 14 is where we were pitching it.
Right.
Okay. But actually, it turns out it's got use much further either side of that as well, which has been fantastic.
Yeah, I can imagine anyone across the world would be interested in seeing this resource. And I know that you're going to take us through the journey of this resource. But just before we come on to that, for those of you who are watching that maybe don't know and love ThingLink, and you might be watching this on YouTube on the catch up, or you might just be joining because you've heard about ThingLink, I think it's really helpful to have like a little statement, which is ThingLink, because people say, what is ThingLink? Or they often say, I love ThingLink. I used to use it ages ago, and they've used it for a project and then they've forgotten about it. So ThingLink, as of today, what you can do with it is just immense. It can be all things to all people, and there's so many different use cases. But in one kind of short statement, ThingLink helps you, whether you're a student, an educator, a learning designer, take the real world, real places, environments, situations, your existing materials, your stories, and bring them to life as accessible, immersive learning experiences. And I know that's quite a lot in one statement, but honestly, it's really difficult to put what ThingLink is into one short statement. But for me, the bit here is about taking the real world and making it accessible and interactive. And if you're wondering about the funny little Vygotsky there, that's actually a 3D model I've embedded into this Canva slide. And Vygotsky was the inspiration for ThingLink. The founder, another female founder, Ulla Maria Koivula, developed ThingLink on this theory that we learn through interacting with our environments. And she thought, well, if we can learn through interaction with our environments, how about in the digital and digital environments too? And that's how ThingLink was created. So in its simplest format, ThingLink is a way for you to add hotspots, and these hotspots can be placed anywhere on an image, a 360, a video, a 360 video, or a 3D model, and you can open them in sequence. But these text and media tags also have embedded accessibility tools such as Immersive Reader. So this can be opened and text to speech. It can be translated into over 80 different languages there in text to speech. So already you've taken what is a static image, added in these hotspots, which open in sequence. So you're taking people on a journey, and these hotspots are anchored to specific points in that image, which help to give it meaning. So you're guiding people through. You can open this up as a web page as well, so that this can be used with AAC, which is different types of augmentative communication tools such as screen readers. So you've got confidence it'll work in that way as well. So lots of ways in which you can use ThingLink to make any kind of image or media accessible and engaging. And that's not limited to photographs or digital images like you saw I've made with AI there in that growth sequence. But in a world of AI, when I think teachers are naturally quite nervous about using AI generated images, whether they are sensitive, culturally sensitive, whether they are truly depicting something. So we're saying, well, why not take the real world, real images, real spaces, real places, and make them interactive and accessible for all. And that's exactly what Gemma has done. So I'm hoping, Gemma, I've queued you up nicely there to start the most amazing presentation. You put so much love and effort into this. I think everyone is going to be wowed. And I'm going to answer any questions in the chat. So if you've got any questions at all, and we're going to give you some prompts. So we'd love you to play along and put in your responses. Gemma, over to you. I think you've got your screen ready to share. So I can remove mine and add yours in. Gemma, take it away.
Thank you. So that's a really good lead in about real spaces. So I had to put a pitch into Adnodd for this piece of work. They had funds available and they were just looking for something that they didn't say exactly what. They wanted something based around RVE. And I had the idea because Cardiff Cathedral is very close to my daughter's school, and I'd been in a few times. It's the most beautiful space. It's absolutely stunning. But it can be difficult sometimes to get pupils to these spaces. So the idea of being able to turn them into an immersive environment for the classroom was where it was all built out of. So what we're going to talk about a little bit today, just so everyone knows sort of where we're going, and then we'll step through bit by bit, is we're going to look at how the immersive design can remove barriers to access and inclusion. We're going to look at how we built a purposeful curriculum ThingLink environment, how escape rooms change learner behaviour, which was actually a little surprising to us as well. Some really exciting stuff around 360 music videos that is doing something brand new for me as well. I had really loads of fun exploring, and how collaboration and authentic representation have been so invaluable in what we've been building. So starting off with the very first section, the problem we were trying to solve. So the curriculum for Wales, wants pupils to genuinely encounter diverse worldviews. And that is got some parity between religion and non-religion. But in practice, school trips are tough. Budgets are really, really tight. They're hard to organise. Schools definitely try. They're doing their absolute best with it. Pupils will often get to one place, one place of worship, but often that's the only one they can get to. They can't organise a second trip to go and compare something different or anything like that. There are growing sensitivities in schools across the UK about parents allowing pupils to go on school trips to places of worship. So that is something that we felt that this could really overcome. And it's looking really at, sorry, I lost my words there. What we can bring in the real world into the classroom in a way that's just very, very accessible. Looking back to what you were saying about ThingLink being accessible and the barriers that we face, this we felt was a really, really good way to overcome that. And And there are children that get left at school during a school trip who then don't get to experience it, that we felt this could really, really overcome.
Such an important point, and I've just put a question there on the screen because I know that we wanted this to be really interactive as well. So we're asking the audience, what barriers do your learners face when accessing real world or community experiences? And you've just highlighted some there. Parents might prevent pupils from accessing those spaces because they don't align with their own faith. It might be monetary, that or financially the school can't get there as well. They might just not be accessible for a whole host of reasons. So I think it's really important.
In a rural area, and they might just not very easily be able to get to one of those spaces. So yeah, it can vary massively. So what we were doing was built for Adnodd to go onto the Hub platform. The original plan was to go to 4 places of worship. It was a Hindu temple, a cathedral for Christianity, a mosque to look at Islam, and a synagogue for Judaism. It was always set out to be a bilingual resource. That's essential as part of Welsh education. All resources have to be fully bilingual. The Welsh language is not simple to translate. I'm a very basic Welsh speaker, so I wasn't able to do the translation myself. We worked with a professional translation service to do it. Google Translate does its best, but my goodness, it's a complex language. So it did need a professional eye on it. And then humanism was not in the original brief. So I was given the commission, and they came back to me and said, well, could you do something for the parity of non-religion? And I thought, well, interesting, but how on earth do I photograph a space that doesn't have a space? It's not quite as simple as you'd expect. And so I spent a lot of time trying to work out, well, what spaces could we use that really sort of recognize humanism, that really represent it in a fair and an impartial way, because it's not a religion. It needs to be done in that way. And actually, it was brilliant for me. I learned an awful lot in looking into it, and we came up with a series of spaces because they've got a set of different values, and I'll talk through them in a moment. But actually, a series of spaces worked really well to represent those. So before I keep talking about it, I think the best thing to do is show you.
That's a great idea. And we've had a lovely comment there. Someone said, and if a child is sick on the day of the trip, this unlocks the experience and allows the teacher to follow up with the whole class. So yeah, really nice point there.
Absolutely. So this is the center of the resource, and you can see each of the different spaces. We'll jump first of all into Hinduism. So this is the Sri Swaminarayan temple in Cardiff. It's absolutely beautiful. And when we step inside, this is their space of worship. And as you can see, we tried to put some similar themes across the areas of religion. So you'll see information about beliefs, you'll see information about worship, and then you'll also see information about festivals or celebrations. So in each of them, if pupils or teachers are trying to compare across the different religions, they've got something they can easily look at. And although everything else they'll see might look very different, we've labeled up all the different things within there. We try to add a glossary of terms because each one has quite specific terms. On this side, there's a women's and men's side. We've got the history of the Mandir, which is wonderful. Each of the deities were taken photos of specifically, and then extra information was written about them. Again, this was all done in a way we hope that was really accessible to pupils. For some of this, the read aloud option is just incredible. It's so groundbreaking in terms of the access for pupils. And like I mentioned, with the age difference, we had quite a wide age range of 8 to 14. So it needed to be detailed enough to sit to that upper level. But actually, for the younger ones, there is some challenging wording in here, particularly when it's different wording they might not have come across. So that was fantastic. And we also built in videos. I'm hoping you should be able to hear this if I click on it. But we called them our community voices. So someone from the community.
What is Hinduism?
Hinduism is one of the largest and oldest religions in the world. The community who comes here have come from India and have come and settled here in Cardiff.
So this was something that we really wanted to include. So it wasn't just our take on a religion, it was us speaking to the community and making sure that their voices were heard. And we had all sorts of different things in there to help pupils and people to really understand it. I'll jump back out. So that's a quick
Yeah,
look
we
at
can hear the
example.
voice in the video, and Simon's just made a lovely point there. Simon's from the University of Salford. Pace and volume of a guide on the day can be a barrier for some. So if you're doing that in person,
Ah,
a virtual recap is very useful to fill in the gaps. That's such a great point.
yeah, absolutely. If we have a quick look at, actually, I'm going to jump in just because it's a really geeky technical point I love. But I had my first chance to put in a floor plan. I've wanted to do a floor
Hey!
plan for a really long time, and I'm very pleased with this. So this is one that appears then throughout, and this is Llandaff Cathedral, which is absolutely beautiful. One of the things we put into all of them was an escape room challenge,
Hey!
which was something that the pupils could access with the sorry, but this was a step through set of questions, and they had to then go and explore the space to find the answers to each of those questions. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Amazing. Do you know what I love on this, Gemma? And I know that the University of Salford have done something similar, and they combined real world images and then used the 360 AI, which was for the village of Eam. And yeah, I think it's really purposeful and really appropriate use of 360 AI generated images, because you're showing the real world and yet you're showing the kind of fantasy, kind of artistic. Oh my goodness, there's lots of nice comments coming through. So impressive. Love, love, love. And Simon says it needs a 3D model. I'm sure you're on it.
Noted. The last one I'll quickly show you before we move on is Humanism had a set of values that included science and reason and believing in things through evidence, a better society, the one life and that we can make the best of our lives and enjoy things around us, and empathy. So based on that, we then came up with the spaces that sort of fitted those. So this is a community library, funnily enough, that my friend runs quite close by, that we felt with sort of knowledge was quite a nice starting point. For empathy, and it includes looking after our planet, we had a woodland scene. The Better Society was our Senedd, which is our Parliament building in Cardiff. Science and reason, I very luckily got into a science lab at Cardiff University. And then the One Life, I was lucky enough to get into our most beautiful theatre, the Millennium Centre. So we based it all around that, with the addition of a music room that I will talk a little bit more about later. I can't give that away yet. So that was the whole space, and there's obviously more you can explore with a little bit more time. But each of those were then created with similar themes running throughout the religious ones, and then slightly different view from humanism, because it is different to the others as a non-religion. But again, where we were trying to make sure we were threading the links back all the time to humanism and why we were talking about a theatre space, the One Life, or a woodland, and so on. Probably something I should have mentioned, I'm going to jump back in and just show you, is we tried to use similar things throughout. So did you knows? So sometimes it was about celebrities like Sir Stephen Fry. Big questions, sort of inquiry focused led education is really big in Wales. So this was more questions for conversation, for things like that within the classes, but also tasks. So for each of them, we tried to put in a variety of tasks that were related back to what we were looking at. Quite different levels again, but all very accessible for pupils of different ages. So big questions and things like that. And we used the same icons throughout all of the spaces to try and make it easy to follow.
Consistent icon usage. So effectively, people then become more comfortable with it. They've got a good idea about what's going to be in those images. You've got the video icons, you've got the questions, you've got the stars. I love that. And I think it's little small details like that that make it work so well and helps us when we're thinking about designing large scale projects.
Yeah. It wasn't perfect when we started. We ended up with a style guide because it was so important as we got into it that we were able to make these spaces something that felt really coherent and something that you could explore from one to the other and not feel like it was a different space. And like you say, that confidence just to go in. Although in fairness, my experience, pupils in school have no problem with the confidence in the digital world. They will just go for it and then figure it out as they go. So that's the space that was built. So next we're going to talk about building the sort of curriculum-led environment. So while it's loading up. So as we've mentioned, it had a central entry point with navigation across all 5. The bilingual toggle was there throughout, so everything was fully translated into Welsh from every label, every text behind each image. It was all absolutely fully translated by a translation service. All the different hotspot types were used, as we've mentioned. We had audio, we had video, links out to websites and things like that. So the next chat question, I think, is for anyone who's with us, is what surprises you? What would you do in your own work? We found out a lot. I think the tasks evolved over time. They became more detailed, and actually we found them to be really engaging. It was created with a group of teachers, and the more we did it, the more we got into those, and then went back to the rooms we built already and added some more in, because we found those to be really engaging. So that was a really interesting one from our point of view, and not something I'd put into a room previously. One of the things, and we'll come on to it a little bit more later, is I was lucky enough for this to be trialled in a year 6 class, so that's ages 10 to 11, in a school in Bridgend near Cardiff, and they took this and had a go with it, and they luckily absolutely loved it. So you'll see some of their feedback along the way, but really enjoyed using it. They found the VR use really interesting, and this is one that was a surprise to me, which sounds really silly, but I'm old school and I work on a laptop. So I move the screen around with my mouse quite adeptly, I think. But actually what pupils were doing, apparently, was having an iPad standing in the middle of the classroom and moving around as the room moves around them. Because it becomes like a VR experience for them. You don't need a VR headset to use it. As you hold it on a tablet, it does the same thing. And that one, I was really surprised by that. I honestly didn't know ThingLink worked in that way on a tablet. So that was a very pleasant outcome from it.
That's really lovely, because we always say you can access it on any device, but we often in our heads think that there's going to be a class that's got a class set of VR headsets, or it might have a class set of Chromebooks, or a class set of iPads. But the agency to choose what works for you, it sounds like they've used the combination of the VR experience, but on the iPad as well, and I think that's just lovely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the headsets aren't for everyone, but also a teacher might want that kind of experience to be delivered on VR headsets, because they've invested into that hardware as well. So it just shows how it can work across a whole range of devices that's right for that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And that class we're using a mix of Chromebooks and iPads. And some, it did, I think one fed back that they got a little motion sick when they did the iPad version, but the Chromebook was fine. So actually they were able to switch between to what worked best for them. But yeah, so things that were really important to us, we were trying to think about it from a learner perspective. We really wanted this not to be prescribed either for the teacher or the learner. We wanted the learners to explore as they chose to, in their own ways, in any direction they wanted to. We didn't want it a stepped journey that they had to go into one place and move to the next. I also, from a teaching perspective, didn't want it to be a lesson plan given to a teacher to teach in a certain way. It was really important it was a resource that any teacher from any age group could pick it up, and they might only want to look at Christianity, or they might only want to look at Hinduism, or they might be doing a comparison across them. They might be particularly interested in the history of this or a particular festival. It had to be something that could be accessed from every direction, really. So we did provide some teacher prompts, some big questions and starter activities and things like that in the Hub platform. But actually, what we really wanted was that ability for a teacher and a pupil to explore as they wanted to. The videos were fully embedded, and then the pacing, there was space to explore, but then every room had the escape room that when the pupils were ready they could explore that. But we highly encouraged them in the entry to it to actually, if they could, open it on the other screen, so that if they had a question they didn't know the answer to, they could jump back in and look for the answer. So it wasn't something that was like a test. It was something that they were exploring, and that they could then go away and find that answer and move on to the next question. So we felt that was really important too.
And Simon's made another really nice, important point here about agency and different approaches. And that's really great when you've got curriculum for excellence or something like that, because in Scotland you have a series of outcomes and the teachers have agency to design an experience as long as it meets those outcomes. But other curricula might be more prescriptive. You must follow it in this kind of fashion. But I think because RVE gives has to have a way that is dependent on the teacher finding the right kind of resource, which is why this has been commissioned, that they do have more agency to deliver it in a way that's right for their class, because they couldn't have a prescription to deliver this, could they? Because otherwise it wouldn't work.
No, it's very open. And then the bit that was really interesting, and it wasn't something I consciously set out to do. I was working with a small team of teachers, and it really came out as we were reflecting on it and building it up through time, was actually how useful this is from a teaching perspective. We were primary school teachers, we all work on supply and get thrown into lessons all the time. But actually having a resource you can prepare as well. So even if you're going on a field trip, that as a teacher, you can learn a bit more about it and feel some confidence in it. And also for the long tail of study, a field trip is often built up over a week before, where you're looking at all the different things, as well as then doing the field trip, but also you're writing about it often for a week or 2 weeks later. So actually having a resource that you can then revisit a space that you can learn a bit more about, it really extends that learning way past a field trip. It's not a replacement. You know, I'd absolutely advocate for pupils to get into a space anytime they can, but this can really support either side of that field trip, even if they've been to a different space, but
and
with
it's
that extra information.
So exciting going on a school trip. You're more concerned about being in a different, with your peers in a different environment, and what you're wearing that day for some, or what else is going on. There's just so many distractions.
Getting on a bus is exciting, right? My daughter's 6. She was wild going on a field trip last week because they were going on a big coach. It's so much fun. But yeah, there's all the other stuff going on. But yeah, we realised actually it's got that real presence both sides of a field trip. So it's not a replacement, but it's something that's really excellent as either side. So moving on to the next piece is making it purposeful. So with some of the evidence from the year 6 class. So one of the things that was really interesting was adding in the escape rooms. I saw it was Claudia who did a webinar a long time ago with an escape room, and I've wanted to do one for ages, and it just felt like the perfect time. So Llandaff was the first space I built, and I built one on and showed it to the other teachers and said, I feel like this could be quite fun. I think this is something that the pupils will really enjoy. They were like, oh yeah, absolutely, we should definitely do one of those in all of them. And it came out as such a winner for the classes. They really, really loved it. And because it wasn't a test, because they were encouraged to open up the other screen and look for the answers, it just helped them explore the space. And we were careful to make sure the questions reflected different aspects. There was always one that covered belief. There was always one on festivals. In Llandaff, because it's such a big space, we tried to make sure we stepped through the different aspects of that space. So it was just very encouraging to help them explore that bit more. So yeah, it was really, really good. And the feedback we had on the escape rooms from the year 6 class was wonderful. They really embraced it and they really enjoyed it. And the locked aspect, so from the teacher who was working with them, they really liked that challenge. They wanted to unlock the next one. They wanted to find that answer to unlock the next step. So that was absolutely fantastic.
Amazing. We just put a prompt there as well. If anybody watching has used escape room mechanics, what worked and what didn't. And that's such a great question. And I know that you've got it on your deck there as well. And we quickly discovered that when you're building escape rooms, it becomes almost like the kind of gamified experience where you think about different levels. So whenever you're building an escape room, you start off with a really simple question to get right. So then you get you up the ante a bit more and a bit more, because it's really off-putting if people can't answer the first question to get through to the next room or breakout. People get just kind of frustrated and they don't want to do any more of it. So you've got to take them on a journey with the escape room as well in terms of intensity and not put them off. So we put all of those into some tips. I've got somewhere on a blog, I'll share it with everyone, how to build escape rooms that actually work, because you've got the tools to do it. It's just the design sometimes can be a little tricky to kind of map out, but it looks like you had the perfect opportunity there, because you've got the content to explore and you've got those big questions and you've got those small facts. It's great.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And funnily enough, what we really enjoyed as well, the Llandaff example I showed you, I used an AI space, but for the others, what we actually used was a ThingLink 360 library, and we found spaces from other parts of the world. So we were able to find, for example, a mosque in Saudi Arabia that was just beautiful, and use that as the escape room, and we put an information panel in about the room that they were in. So there was just another lovely aspect of seeing that faith in a different place and sort of exploring that as well. So just a bit of a side note. But yeah, overall, sorry.
Nice question coming in from Simon as well. He's saying that field trips are just so expensive in all kinds of ways, but can be amazing. But things people always remember and talk about, it's not a total disaster if you've missed it. There's always a digital backup. So maybe people will never get to see that amazing mosque that you've just been talking about, but at least they had a small introduction to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So so this was just a bit more feedback on the escape rooms and the post-it notes that the pupils wrote, and on the feedback overall. But they were really fascinated by it and really enjoyed it. Moving on to the next bit, the music room. So I got really excited about this. So part of the aspect of humanism is the one life, and about us pursuing things that we love and making the best out of everything, whether it's sports, whether it's theatre. And it includes music. And I desperately wanted to do 360 videos for a really long time. So I was lucky enough to be able to, I'll jump into the music room in here actually and show you. I was lucky enough to be able to work with 3 different music groups. So we went to a beautiful community theatre space in Cardiff. And as part of that, we then filmed a band called Blind Items, who are a Bristol-based band who did an acoustic set for us. We did a band called Artemis, who are a fabulous young Welsh band who sing in the Welsh language. And they were much more of a rock band. And then also the Orbit String Quartet, who are a fabulously talented group of musicians who did a series for us as well. So I will show you one of those videos now. And in this version, in the version we didn't overlay a lot of tags because we were very limited on words. We were really struggling with how much our translation costs were coming in on. And we wanted to leave it as the music. But for this version, I've overlaid some tags that we had in the other space with some extra information. So that's just a short clip of the string quartet. So it was fabulous. We worked with a sound engineer to capture it, to make sure that the sound was really well balanced. So the lovely Adam, who had to be in the pictures to be able to capture it properly, who's at the back. But we thought, we could teach people about what sound engineers do as well. Each of these wonderful musicians who are frighteningly talented, having seen the music that day. And if it's driving anyone mad, that song is Steve's Lava Chicken from the Minecraft film, because we thought the kids would really love it.
It's incredible, and I must say it's a real rare treat to see 360 video used really well in ThingLink with tags. And I think that just shows the value of having 360 videos with the annotations there, because you can stop, have a look at the tags, you've got the layers of information. This is going to work in headsets, it's going to work on any device. I think it's just great. I really, really, really love it. And Marit's also echoing that, saying, wow, mind blown. So there you have it, all the way from Finland. Lots of opportunities there as well. You've really engaged the whole community in putting this together.
I was
It just
extremely
looks
lucky for
so
this one.
professional and so good.
The teacher, I had a videographer working with us on this because I felt my video skills were not strong enough to go in completely fresh. And, you know, the musicians were paid for their time, as they absolutely should be. So I really wanted to capture it really well. So a local videographer worked with me on it. And one of the teachers working with me on the project was actually an ex-professional viola player. She's unbelievably talented. So she knew some of the musicians and was able to help me get a group together. So I was just extremely lucky that she had that incredible background and was able to help sort out the music and all that side of things. But yeah, it was fabulous. And the music side, I think I would love to do more with this, because I think music's missing from classrooms terribly now. And I think to be able to build these things out just as a pure music resource, you know, for pupils, there's a brilliant rock band in there. To be able to turn around and see the drummer, see the singer, I just think it's a really exciting thing to have in a classroom. So I was very excited by it. But it was something that seems to have been very popular. So it was something that I would absolutely do again if I had the opportunity.
It is the very definition of immersive learning, isn't it? You really do feel like you're there with them. And as you know, you've got all the accessibility options there as well. You can add in alt text, you can add in all of those things as well. But it's just phenomenal. It really is, Gemma. Amazing.
Yeah, so we were really, really pleased with that one, and I think it came out that the sound quality was incredible. You can imagine the balance on a rock band needs to be good. So thank you to Adam, the sound engineer, because it would have been very different without him. But yeah, it's superb. It's something that we were really, really, really pleased with for this. And then the last area to look at is building through community voices and collaboration across the board. So working with the community was really, really important, and also working with the other teachers. So initially, the plan was for me to be working on this when I put it in just for the 4 religious spaces. When we added humanism, we realised the size of it was massive. So I brought in 2 teachers to work with me, and it was fabulous. I'm so pleased we did, because that collaboration and being able to work with someone else to get the different points of view, just the simple teamwork of we're all very good at different things, was just brilliant. So as I said, the style guide had to be put in place quite quickly. All of a sudden we realized we all needed to be kind of working in the same way. And luckily we had a very similar way of writing, and in terms of sort of the way we spoke to the children. You'll laugh, because as we found out before this webinar, I'm rubbish with emojis, but Emma was brilliant with them. So when you see all the emojis in there, that was Emma, who's excellent at them. So yeah, that for me was just a huge step that made it not only a much better resource, but really enjoyable to work on as well.
I'm going to put one of your questions in the chat, because I think it's something quite funny there. It's like, what production challenges have caught you off guard in your own immersive projects? Because that's quite a good one. It's like, I find it difficult to actually take good quality pictures. Some of the pictures you've taken there are just such good quality. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about how you captured some of those? Because they're just, the quality's excellent.
So I've got an Insta360 X4 camera, which is what the majority of those pictures are taken with the tripod stick. So it cuts it out of the pictures for you, so it just makes it look like it's floating. So all of the 360 imagery was taken with that. The close-up imagery, to be honest, I found the fisheye effect of the Insta cameras for straight on not brilliant. Nearly all the pictures are taken on my phone. For any of the close-up individual flat pictures, they're all just from my phone, because I just found that was better quality than I was getting elsewhere, and much easier to manage in terms of moving files around. So yeah, the pictures, I was very lucky, were very good. But my biggest problem, honestly, was taking photography, was the fact it rained for 60 days straight in Wales, and I needed pictures of the outside of each building. And honestly, I was literally the very last day outside the temple trying to take photos, because it's finally stopped raining for the first time in forever, and I was uploading them on the very last day, because that was driving me mad. And the woodland pitch is still quite muddy, but
I can imagine a lot of the venues probably want those images, because then they could use them in their own websites or share with their own communities as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely excited about them. Yeah, absolutely. Some actually, most of them were easy enough to take photos in that I was given time and space to do it. Llandaff is permanently open, so I did have to spend time trying not to get other people in the shots. And there's a lot of, if you ever like a game of Where's Wally, I am technically in every photograph. I am behind a tree, a pillar, a screen, you name it, I'm there somewhere. But yeah, brilliant. Getting me out of the images was quite fun as well.
Yes, Gemma. Simon's saying lots of students prefer their phones to the 360 cameras, and I know obviously this is a ThingLink webinar, so I can call out some of the features, but obviously ThingLink's offered now a functionality where you can take a panoramic image with your phone and upload that to ThingLink, and it will turn it into a 360 photosphere. So there are ways of doing it, and if you're a bit lower budget or you want it to be accessible, and I've said this many a time on my webinars, that my expensive 360 camera often lives in my drawer on my desk, and then I'm out and about and I think, oh, it'd be really good to have a 360 image, and I've remembered that my camera is in my phone desk uncharged. So having my phone is quite handy for those uses, and also for student creation. Not all students are going to have 360 cameras, but they can use their own phones to recreate the trip if they do go on to a field trip themselves. And that's something that, as I said to you before, Stanford University have been looking at, and they've been creating a whole website of resources to help teachers encourage students to create their own virtual field trips as well. Just lovely.
So I'm smiling at Simon's comment. Yes, I've done a lot of holding a selfie stick above my head as well. For these, I felt that I probably needed to just hide.
Excellent.
But yeah, so that was, I think, some of the challenges. I think the translation for us was a big challenge because it was just vast. I think I'd planned for us to write approximately 20,000 words, and we wrote 40,000. And even that was the seriously cut back version, because the content was just so rich. It was just unbelievably brilliant, and we could have just written so much more, but we did have to pare it back a little bit. And the other side of it was, so I should have mentioned it on that last slide, working with the community voices was absolutely essential. And we were so lucky that we had the buy-in from them, because they want pupils to see their beautiful places of worship. They want people to understand. So we were incredibly lucky how willing they were to give their time and their effort to be videoed. All of the work we did was reviewed by them and checked through, which was utterly invaluable. There's a good point here in the things that were harder than we expected. I think the consistency I've mentioned already, translation costs were wild. In the synagogue, all the beautiful stained glass windows had Hebrew writing for example, which festival it was for.
Yeah.
I don't speak Hebrew. So I would put it through an AI system, and then another one, and then another one. And then once I had something very consistent coming out, I'd say, right, that's it. That's what we're writing about. So it's definitely referring to Passover. And then I'd start writing about it. And luckily, through the help of one of our community supporters, and when they read it, it had mistranslated. All of them had mistranslated. We were referencing the wrong festival. So that was absolutely essential in what we were doing.
Such good points, though, because I think what you've demonstrated there is that, obviously we do use AI, and where to use it appropriately and sense check and use multiple engines to see if there's a consensus across the outputs, and then do a real life check with it as well. And that's a really good example. If anybody wants an example to say the importance of sense checking everything you're doing with AI, I also just want to give you a shout out, because these aren't Canva slides, these aren't PowerPoints, they aren't Google slides. You coded these slides yourself, didn't you? with
Yeah, so
Claude?
these are Claude. This is a website, a HTML website built with Claude, because Canva wasn't getting the level of detail I wanted. I've just started playing a lot more with AI recently, and then these have obviously been built into the ThingLink space to link it all together. But yeah,
Brilliant. So I'm
some good stuff
your
with AI.
slides I put them into the chat as well, and I know that they're on the Canva slides, but so that URL, ThingLink-webinar for the many .netlify.app is just the URL that's been created just for these slides, which is brilliant.
Yeah, so it's
Well done.
yeah, it's really good. So yeah, I think that in summary, I think ultimately the presence, the being able to take pupils into that space, for us, we're so pleased with what we've built. We're absolutely thrilled, and we've had some really good feedback so far. So long may it continue. I hope it's something that can be used by anyone who wants to. They happen to be in Wales, mostly around Cardiff, because that's where I'm based. But actually, they talk of faiths that anyone can access. They explain and show beautiful spaces. So I'm really hoping that they can be accessed by anyone who'll find them useful, whether they're in Wales or further afield in the world. I think the gamification, as we've talked about a lot, was brilliant, and it worked really well in this particular scenario. I think collaboration was important, not only from the team working on it, but working with the wonderful faiths that we worked with across all of it. They were so helpful and so supportive. And that I think the virtual environment with the sensitivities around religion can be more neutral. If there are pupils who aren't able to go out on these field trips, this offers such an incredible insight into a space that they wouldn't be able to experience. So yeah, we're really thrilled with it, and really, really pleased with how it's come out.
Gemma, at a time when I think we need to be focusing more on love and learning about different faiths and religions and backgrounds and communities, I can't think of a more fitting resource to share with everybody. And
well, I really hope that comes through, because the more I spoke to different people in the communities, the overriding thing that came through was how the similar beliefs are, how similar all the values that people hold across these different belief systems are. That it's all about kindness and generosity and community. And I really hope that shines through as people compare these different religions in these different spaces, because it doesn't really matter which one of them it is. They all have these amazing underlying beliefs that yeah, hopefully people can really understand better from it.
And somebody did actually post in the chat, are they able to access it? And of course, it will be in the slides.
Absolutely.
It's in the case study as well that we've linked, and people can get in touch with you as well if they want to find out more about your services as well, because you are a company that delivers this service, I'm sure, globally, so people can get in touch with you. But what a phenomenal piece of work, Gemma. It really is outstanding. I love the fact that you mentioned all these commonalities amongst faiths, but you also showed there that music is multi-generational and multi-faith, and that every community has a soundtrack or a style of music, which is, and that's just lovely, isn't it? It's something that I think we all can identify with. So I guess as we bring this webinar to a close, obviously, if there's any more questions before we bring it to a close, do please pop them into the chat as well. I have one more question, Gemma, and that's what's next? Have you got anything else in the pipeline?
Well, I mentioned this to you earlier. I have got a little bit excited about the new 360 drone. So I am looking now to try and do a bit more with amazing 360 photography from the air. I think living in Wales, the capital of all things castles, I think we have more castles per square meter than anybody else on earth, as far as I understand. So I think there could be some really, really, really exciting things with that. But yeah, I'm just really looking forward to doing more with immersive spaces, with education, with culture and heritage. I think there's some exciting things to come.
Brilliant. And we are just very excited about the future and working with you as well, Gemma. We are hugely thankful that you're part of our community. So on behalf of the ThingLink team, I can say, you know, a big thank you to you, to the communities, to the pupils that participated and gave you that wonderful feedback as well. And also to anyone watching, if you want to be part of our ThingLink trainer community, and hopefully we'll be able to meet up in person sometime as well. But obviously we do meet often and run webinars like this. If you want to be part of that, our community, you're welcome to join. Details will be on the email that you get after the webinar. And oh, someone's just check CAA reg changes. I don't know what he means by that.
All over it. Thank you very much.
Oh,
yeah.
Is that for the drone?
Yeah.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, drone licensing.
Okay. Thank you, Gemma. And thank you to all of you
so
that
much.
have given up your valuable time to watch this webinar. I'm sure you'll agree it's been worth every second of our attention to learn so much about this work. And yeah, so I haven't got another webinar to put in until June. We're going to be meeting with another of our trainers and looking at some of the work that they are doing. Kate Wiles from Nottingham College. If you go to thinglink.com/webinars, you can see that one. The date escapes me, but we're going to be looking at some of the ways in which Kate's using ThingLink to create scenarios to help young people learn service skills and customer service skills, so real world skills. So yes, that's all on the email that you'll be getting after the webinar very shortly as well. So thanks everyone. Thanks again. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your day, rest of your evening, wherever you are. So it's goodbye from us. Thank you.
Bye.